Hello, welcome to Speech Talk Live. My name is Jay Oza, and I am a mentor for the Coursera course or the Specialization Fundamentals of Public Speaking that is taught by Dr. Matt McGarity. I've been a mentor since 2014, so I think it's more than 2.5 years. And today I'm by myself. Uh, Doing this show. Typically, I have a co-host and occasionally a guest. So if you are watching this and you are interested in co-hosting, just send me an email at jayoza. That's O, Z as in zebra, A as in apple. Let me just spell the entire thing again. jayo, Z as in zebra, A as in apple at phi-toolgroup.com. That's digit 5, toolgroup.com. I'll have it in the annotation. So if you want to be a co-host or if you want to be a guest where you want to talk about your speaking experience, any speeches you have given, and you think there's something that you have learned that you feel that you want to share with others, drop me an email and we can set it up. Okay. Today I'm going to do something different. Normally I have this show that I start from start to finish, and I really don't edit any part of it or don't even splice it. But today I'm going to do it because I have different speeches that I want to include in here, but it's not possible to do it in this continuously. And today I'm going to talk about a funeral speech. Now, a lot of us are learning public speaking, and many of us have gone to Toastmasters and kind of overcome our fear of speaking in front of people. And then there are others who are currently taking an excellent course from Coursera, Introduction to Public Speaking, and that whole specialization, which I think is one of the best around. Okay. If you're looking to get a certificate, get it, because if you gotten a certificate, believe me, you have learned a lot, but you have to keep continuing. But at some point, you have to actually start giving speeches. And one of the speech that at one time in our life, hopefully one, but as it turns out, many times, we will be giving funeral speeches for loved ones, relative, friends, or colleague, or whoever. And how do you give that speech? That's a tough speech. And a lot of them are terrible. A lot of them are just put together quickly and not much thought is given. So I wanted to share my experience. Recently, my father-in-law passed away, and I wanted to give a speech to honor him. And I'll tell you exactly how I went about it. That's why I have to splice those speeches into this Speech Talk Live episode. And I learned a lot of interesting things that I wanted to share with you, that if you're ever in a situation where you have to give a funeral speech, how do you go about giving it? So I'll tell you, this is what I did. And again, it's something that brings in our knowledge of public speaking from taking these courses and applying it to something that's kind of personal. But at the same time, you want to do a good job. You want to honor the person. You want to, show what that person's life meant to you, to the audience. And at the same time, you want to be interesting too. So you kind of have that fine line, you want to honor the person, but at the same time, you want to also, cater to the audience so that they're not bored, because most of the speeches tend to kind of get boring after a while. You'll have this quote from some famous person about life, etc., and then people will either break down or they just can't do it. A lot of the speeches, and I know the people who give it, they mean well, and a lot of them are grieving. So sometimes it's reasonable that they are not trying to be get away from their comfort zone. So a lot of people stay in their comfort zone and they give a speech. I tend to view funeral as kind of like a celebration of life. So that's my view of it. So that's how I approach a funeral, because the person is gone and I know we all miss the person and that person meant a lot to him. But now you're moving to the next phase. How do you honor that person so it reflects what that person meant to you when that person was actually alive? So that's the thinking you have to do when you start crafting the speech. And I understand that many times you just don't have much time. You got to put something together. One thing I would suggest is, if you know somebody is sick and elderly person is in hospice or something, you should start thinking about the speech right away, at least the outline of it, some of the main things you want to say. Because when somebody's in hospice, it's not going to last for long. I mean, that's almost the place where the person is, the last days of his life pass away, uh, before the person pass away without much suffering. So start right away. The ones that are difficult are the unexpected ones, where somebody dies for reasons that you just did not expect. Those are difficult. And again, the main thing to remember is, when you're giving a speech, you're celebrating the life, not the circumstances that led to the person's death. Yes, you miss them. Yes, everything, all of that is there. But you're trying to convey to the audience, hey, when this person was alive, this is what that person meant to me. This is what I learned from that person. And this is what I want to share with you. And you have a right to do that, because that's exactly what that person meant to you. So when it came to my father-in-law, and I really respected him, loved him a lot. He meant a lot to me. I learned a lot from him. So I wanted to honor him. How do I honor somebody? So here's what I did. I wrote a speech down. I just spent a few hours writing a speech down, and I wanted to focus on what he meant, what he did as a profession. He was a salesman, so I wanted to kind of honor him in that respect. What made him so good at what he did as a profession, and how he used that technique to keep the family together, to help people out, both in business and in life. So that was my overarching theme. And what I did was, I wrote a speech down and I ran it past a few people and they liked it. And this is what I call the safe speech. This is the speech you should have in your pocket before you ever even get to as you get closer to uh, the date of the funeral. The safe speech is there because if you have to give a speech at a funeral and you just are overcome with grief where you can't do anything different, then that safe speech is the one you go with up to the point when you're about to speak. So you have a lot of time in between to think whether there was another speech that you want to give, but you would rather have the safe speech just in case you're just not overcome with so much grief that you can't deliver it. So I had the safe speech written. And at this point, what I'm going to do is I am going to stop here and have you watch that speech. And then I'll come back and comment on that. So at this point, I'm going to stop. We are here to pay our respects to GJ, or Papa as I call him, since he touched us in his unique way. We will miss him. We will also fondly remember the time we had with him and how he made us feel better, think better, and be better. Each of us has a story to tell on how he did this. He was a great salesman, both professionally and personally. By that I mean he contributed value without worrying about receiving any returns. He did this because he was an expert at engaging and connecting with people. He was always present. He gave us his time. He gave us his attention. He showed us respect, and he gave us his love. All these combined gave him the superpower to make a difference in everyone he touched. And he taught us all this through example. Let's face it, he was a natural. And you can see his influence in his sons, son in laws, daughter, daughter in laws, grandchildren, relatives, and friends. He showed us how to be better by making others better. He will certainly be missed, but what he taught us will remain with us. Yes, we're all sad today that he's gone, but we are also lucky and blessed to have known him and to learn from him. He lived a good life and leaves a proud legacy. Okay, so now you had a chance to look at that speech. That was my prepared speech that I wrote for to honor my father-in-law. Okay, and that's the speech that I had in my pocket that I was going to go up to the podium and give it if there was circumstances that prevented me from giving a different speech. So that was a well-prepared speech. I'd given some thought to it, and I ran it past a few people, and they liked it. So that was my safe speech. Okay, once you have the safe speech, at this point, you now have to think about what is the speech you would give if you didn't have any restrictions, somewhat a little bit risky, somewhat a little bit not conventional. And there, I wanted to tell a story about something that the idea is the same about his salesmanship, but how does it apply to me personally? Right? That the safe speech was more like these are the things, but it doesn't really go into a specific story that would resonate with the audience. So at this point, the morning of the funeral, I said, you know what? I need to give a speech that is more from the heart rather than a safe speech where I go through all the things, which is fine. A lot of people would like that speech, and I even liked it because I wrote it. I said, I want to tell a story. And the story would be about his salesmanship, but more personal, how it affected me. And the story I go on to tell, which I'll show you once I stop here, the speech. I can't show you from the funeral because we didn't tape it. You know, it was a private affair, and we didn't think it was a good idea to tape people giving speeches at a funeral. So I wanted to tell a story about how his salesmanship helped me get married to my wife. That was what I wanted to convey. And there I injected some humor, and I was telling a personal story. And I didn't really need any notes for that because I'd done some rough preparation, and I had that safe speech. So a lot of the ideas came from that. But now I took those ideas and told a personal story. And the story was how his salesmanship helped me get married to my wife. That was the story. And at this point, I will stop so that you can watch the actual speech that I delivered at the funeral. We are all here to pay our respects to GJ, or Papa as I called him, since he touched us in his unique way. You know, what I remember about Papa was that he was a quintessential salesman. He was a salesman in his professional life, and he was a salesman in his personal life. He was always selling to make life better for others. He never expected anything back. Because I like to say, nothing happens in business or in life without sales. And you can't make a sale without a great salesman. And Papa was a great salesman. Now you may ask, how do I know that? I never was a client of his, but I did benefit immensely because of his salesmanship. To make you understand this, I will have to take you back to 1991. It was April of 1991. I was going to go play tennis, and my mother said, "Why don't you come home a little early? Because we have two guests that are coming over, and we would like you to come early to talk to them before they leave." I didn't think much of it. I said, "Okay, sure. I'll try to be home by 5 or 6." And they said, "That's fine." And I came back from playing tennis, and there I see my father-in-law to be and my mother-in-law to be. I'd never seen them before, never even heard about them. And we chatted about things, about my tennis game, about what I was doing, and just general conversation. We just chatted. It was a friendly chat, nothing more than that. And after they left, I just assumed that they were my parents' friends or some distant relatives. So I asked my parents, I said, who were these two people? I had never met them. They said, "Oh, yeah, they were uh, somebody that they wanted to stop by to meet with us because they had heard about us, that we might know each other." I said, "And what else? Was there anything else?" He said, "Oh, there was another thing. They have a daughter and they wanted to see you also, to see if you would be a potential match for her daughter." I said, "Well, wasn't planning to get married or anything." My parents said, "Well, whether you want to get married or not, that's up to you. If they have a daughter that they think you might be a good fit, you at least owe us a visit to her, or at least see her." I said, "Okay, sure, that's not a big deal." I said, "Probably she may not like me. Probably they didn't like me, or it may not even go beyond that." Okay, so that's on my side. On the way to her house, evidently, according to my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law both liked me. But my mother-in-law told my father-in-law that you're going to have to make the sale to their daughter. So when they get home, they tell my wife, future wife, that we met this wonderful boy that we think would be a good fit for you. Said he's tall, he's handsome, he's intelligent, he's even athletic, and he comes from a real good family. We liked him a lot. At this point, my future wife is thinking, like, who is this Bollywood hero? I gotta meet him. Said we liked him a lot. But there is one other thing we need to tell you. He does have a receding hairline. My wife said, how bad can that be? So a few weeks later, they come to visit us, this time with their daughter, my future wife. And my wife and I go out and we take her to the park to kind of get to know each other a little better. And my sister-in-law relayed to me what she told her afterwards. She said, when I saw Jay for the first time, I was like, where is the receding hairline? He's totally bald. And she liked me, but not to the point where like, like I was the Bollywood hero or anything like that. Okay, so I'm not a Bollywood hero. So enters phase 2. So this was not going to be an easy sale. So my father-in-law had to talk to her again and said, look, he's tall, he's intelligent, he's handsome, he's athletic, he has a good family. Okay, he would help if he had a few more strands of hair, but 25 years from now, it's not going to matter anyway. But you'll still be very happy. I think you should think about this. And evidently she did. And 25 years ago, we got married. And that would not have taken place if it wasn't for my father-in-law's great salesmanship. Let me repeat, nothing happens without a sale. And you can't make a sale without a great salesman. My father-in-law was a great salesman. Okay, I'm back. So now, as you saw that, for that speech, I did not require any notes. And I basically could have gone, when I went up to the podium, given the safe speech that I had written or the personal story that I ended up giving. And the audience reaction was very receptive. The audience needed the break. There were speeches ahead of him that people gave were excellent, but they were very conventional, and they were more about, many of them were read. Some of them were children and all that, so they were overcome with grief, and they didn't want to take a chance not reading the notes. So I wanted to kind of break the little sadness there, because I wanted to kind of tell people what he really meant to me in a kind of a humorous way, because he was a really a funny man, and he loved life, and I didn't want to give a speech that was very, conventional. And the reaction I got from the audience was excellent. They were right into it. They were laughing at the different parts of the speech, and you can tell that they needed that break. And when I did it, I was a little scared. I said, I don't know, I'm kind of breaking the mold here, doing something different. I'm taking a risk. Afterwards, but when I was giving the speech, I was really into the moment. I knew that this was my story and I had to tell it. And at that point, it was go. It's like, when you launch a rocket, there's no way you can bring it back. It's going. I kind of felt like that. Not exactly like that, but you know what I mean. And once I started, I was really in the flow. There was no nervousness, nothing. I just gave it. I was really into the moment. And at that point, I really was more focused on my performance, that I needed to get the audience to really understand what I was trying to say. And I think I succeeded in that. Unfortunately, I can't show you that video since we didn't record that video, but you could see the idea. It's not the same, by the way. One thing I'll tell you is when you record in front of a video like I'm doing, it's not the same as when you are recording in front of an audience. The audience, I believe, makes it a lot easier once you overcome the fear of speaking in front of audience. Because when you're staring at a camera like I am right now, it's just me and the camera. I'm getting no feedback. When you see an audience, like let's assume there's like an audience here, you can pick up cues like, oh, this person is laughing. Oh, this person is dozing off or something like that. You can get the cues. You can get the reaction from the audience, which really helps you if you're on top of your game when it comes to public speaking. So one thing I learned quickly from that experience was that I tend to record a lot of videos. And when you record videos, it's just you and the camera doesn't talk, doesn't do anything, it's just there. It's just stuck. And I see the aperture staring into me, but that's it. But with an audience, I felt really energized. It was a really, I really felt like, wow, this is fun. I was really enjoying myself giving that speech, and I think that was kind of important because at a funeral, it's not that you want to respect the person, but when you're giving a speech, you really have to enjoy the speech. You got to kind of separate yourself from the event versus the speech, and so often that is hard. People don't do that at the funeral. And I can understand that. Look, it's a funeral, there's a lot of grieving and all that. But when you're giving a speech, and I really prepared myself, I said, I gotta be strong when I'm giving the speech. I know that my father-in-law is dead and I miss him a lot. But when I'm giving a speech, I'm gonna have to separate it. Otherwise, I'm not gonna do it justice in honoring for what he really meant to me. So that's how I did it when I went up in front of the podium to give the speech. And that's the speech that you saw. Now, again, what you saw in the video is recorded in front of the camera. When I gave it, what you're not getting in that is the audience reaction. And the audience was really into that speech. So a week goes by after the speech, and we had some ceremony afterwards for my father-in-law. It was a Hindu ceremony where, you liberate the soul. And there was a woman who came to me, and she said, "Oh, I really liked your speech a lot." And I said, "Oh, thank you." So I just thought she was just, being polite, just because I gave the speech, and said, and then she recited, like she almost like pretty much remembered the entire speech. So I like the way you said that, you're handsome and this and that, and at that point, that was just one person who did that. I felt good, but it also made me realize that there must have been close to 300 people, and only she was the only one after a week came to me and mentioned my speech, and not even just mentioned that she liked my speech, but the specifics of the speech. So that made me realize that when you give a speech, a true indicator of how effective as a speaker you are is how many people are going to come to you and tell you that. And it's not that many, not that many. We all think like our speeches are so important that people will remember it. The reality is nobody remembers what you say. So, all that preparation you do, and you spend like hours, sometimes days, and some people even spend weeks. Like some of the TED Talks I hear, people spend like months. And afterwards, people don't really remember much. So think about that. When you are crafting your speech, what is it that you want people to remember? Most of the time, it's going to be very little after the speech is over. And after the week, it's practically going to be zero. So I was really, I felt good, really, when that woman came to me and basically told me what my speech was about and how much she enjoyed it. She didn't say she liked it, trying to, be polite or something, make me feel good. She actually told me the details of the speech, which is kind of unusual. I wasn't expecting that. So I just wanted to kind of share that with you, that when you're giving a speech, is anybody coming to you? Well, it's one thing, there were a few people afterwards, after I gave a speech. I would say about 10 people said, they gave me a thumbs up, they liked it. I felt good. But she was the only one after a week who actually came to me and said, "I really liked your speech, and I liked the way you made honored your father-in-law with humor." And I felt really good about it. And that's when I realized, like, wow, that's what you want when you're giving a speech. Somebody comes to you after a week. Immediately, that's good. Some people, you don't know whether they're polite or they're just, they really liked it or not. But after a week, they have to really like it, because otherwise, people don't remember a speech 1 week later. So I wanted to kind of share that with you, that many of you want to become a good to great speaker. Some of you are taking the Coursera course, which I urge everybody to take, because there's always something new you can learn. Even though I've gone through the first version of the course something like 4 or 5 times, I'm currently going through the second version, just trying to pick up new stuff. Because this is like, public speaking is like work in progress. Nobody masters the skill. Okay, it's a skill you kind of keep working on it till you die, I guess. So you don't want to get overconfident thinking like, oh, I got this thing figured out. Nobody has this thing figured out, because communication is hard. Everybody you talk to is different. Their experiences, knowledge, personality, all of that is different. And unless you're talking to, like me, the camera, then it's the same. Camera's personality doesn't change. Camera has no behavior, nothing. It just stand there. But unfortunately, when we're talking to people, they're not cameras. They do have personality. They do have experiences. They do have their own biases, their own prejudices, their own knowledge. And that's what you're working with. And that changes. That changes every time you're speaking to a different audience. But the main thing to remember is that funeral speeches are difficult. There's a lot there. There's a lot of people that are sad. But you need to separate from the person and the speech. And if you can do that and just focus on the speech, because that's your job. That's what you're basically being asked to do, or you volunteer to do. And the job that you need to get done is give something, add something, bring something at the funeral that really honors the person in a way that also makes the audience listen to you, pay attention, and get something out of your speech. And that means if you have to tell a story, if you have to inject humor, and I bet you if you do that, you can even handle a funeral speech. So this has been my experience, and I wanted to kind of share with you, because a lot of you people want to become a good speaker. And one of the speeches that we don't really focus on is this funeral speech. So I hope this helps you. And if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, if you ever had to give a funeral speech, I'd like to learn from you. How did you go about doing it? But my suggestion here is simple. Get a safe speech done that you can give, and then work on a little bit more risky speech, something that will make you resonate with the audience. So you now have this one that you can use as a fallback, but this is the one you want to give. That's the one that's going to make you resonate with the audience and honor the person the way you want to. Okay, so thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode, number 61.